Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I've got a real exciting video to share with you guys. Today is the first video with my husband where we are going to be talking about some of our favorite movies and TV shows from days gone by. So I'm filming this in the daytime. We haven't filmed our actual video together yet. We're going to do that tonight. But before I show you that, I just want to sit and chat for a couple minutes just to give you guys a little bit of information in case you missed the vlog where we were talking about it. So our plan is we're going to be talking about our favorite TV shows at first especially, and we're going to try to kind of do it with a little bit of a twist. So we kind of want to connect them all in a sort of way. So tonight's video, we're talking about Dexter. And Michael C. Hall was the star of Dexter. And next week, we're going to talk about my all-time favorite TV show, and that's 6 Feet Under. And Michael C. Hall starred in that. And then maybe the week after that, we'll talk about True Blood. Because you see, Alan Ball created 6 Feet Under, and he created True Blood. So we're kind of going to see how long we can keep that string going while using some of our favorite films and TV shows. The other thing I want to talk about is, since we haven't filmed this yet, I don't know what the setup's going to be. I think that's something that's kind of going to be evolving as time goes by. So God only knows what the format's going to be. It might be slightly vlog style. It might be sit down like this. It might be some mixture of the two. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy. I think we're going to be calling this maybe retro reviews or something along that line. I'm sure you already know because you've seen the title of the video. Anyway, enjoy you guys. Is that the theme song?
Yes, it is.
It's good. You did good.
I love this show. Let's talk about this. In hindsight, this was even more fascinating to me just because of how brilliant it started out and how it began. And then it just ended up being awful. This went from a very promising beginning to a very phenomenal middle part to weird and then just stupid by the time it ended up.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's break it down season by season. And for anyone who hasn't watched Dexter yet and wants to, this is your warning that there are a ton of spoilers coming up. So season 1, we're introduced to the ice truck killer. It's an amazing start. We're introduced to an amazing premise. A psychopath using his murderous urges for good, who's also a blood spatter analyst, which gives him this whole other insight as to how to clean up a crime, what forensic teams are looking for when they're investigating a crime. We get to meet his dad, his adopted dad, and his adopted sister, and we get some backstory that's truly heartbreaking. We get to see his adopted dad help him come up with a code that will keep him safe and using his urges to only go after people who are deserving. Which, you know, when you put that in one man's hands, it gets a little sticky, but he gives him a strict code to help him decide who is deserving. It's immediately so intriguing.
We start to follow Dexter as he's trying to figure out who the killer is, why he's taunting him, and we start to find out more of Dexter's history and backstory as we discover that the killer is actually his biological brother.
This, of course, is after the killer, Brian, successfully seduced Dexter's adopted sister Deb to get closer to Dexter. All in all, though, I thought it was an excellent season. Loved it. Then we went into season 2, which honestly, while I enjoyed watching it, looking back on it, it's such a throwaway season for me. We had all that stuff with Dokes, and well, that was too bad because I really liked Dokes as a character, and I enjoyed that the relationship that the two of them had together. It was obvious he had to go because he was the only person that was able to pick up on the fact that there was something off with Dexter.
Yeah, I loved the relationship that could have happened with Dexter and Dokes. I love the promise that could have been there, and at one point in season 2, you actually think like, oh my gosh, maybe these two could actually somehow work together, until Dexter actually has Dokes watch him commit one of the kills, and then Dokes is just, he's gone at that point, and yeah, he's got to go. Next up with season 3, with it came a fascinating character to me, Miguel Prado. Dexter got married to his then pregnant girlfriend Rita, and
yes, I love Rita. Rita was a great fit for Dexter because she had had so many bad relationships in her life that really all she wanted from him was someone who would treat her well, who wasn't an absolute piece of garbage person. And despite all of the things and the failings that Dexter had and all of the things that he was unable to be and do, he was able to be and do that for her.
Exactly. So then there's Miguel, who's this assistant district attorney who comes to trust and confide in Dexter after Dex ends up helping him out with a case, I think. Soon after that, Dexter ends up going on a kill, and he finds out that Miguel has somehow followed him there, and instead of getting mad about it or anything like that, Miguel ends up offering to help him for some reason, and it seems too good to be true to Dexter. It seems too good, and it is. Of course it is. In the end, it was all just so incredibly out of hand. He begins to praise Dexter and wants to start helping him and the future, and it goes on, and it gets out of hand.
So many red flags. And of course, actually, Dexter has to kill Miguel to shut it all down. Killing ain't easy, and clearly it's a solo business. Then comes season 4, and oh my god, what an absolute roller coaster of a season from start to finish. It was the best season in my opinion and the most heartbreaking. It started with John Lithgow playing a man named Arthur, who is the Trinity killer, and it just took off from there.
On Dexter's side, we see him trying to find the balance between his family life, his new son, his wife, his stepkids, who are now a part of his life, and his killing. Then with this killer, this Trinity killer, who got his name from killing in groups of 3s, we end up finding out it's actually a series of 4s, because there's a young boy that gets abducted, and I think in one case, the thing that Dexter ends up realizing is that Arthur is going to actually try to just drop him into a basement that's going to be filled with concrete or something like that, and but where this is just a missing person, it's never actually tied in with the case or anything like that, so they've always just referred to him as a Trinity killer. But anyway, so Dexter ends up finding in Arthur this older white man, and he begins to befriend him to try to get closer. As things get more intense and weirder, Arthur ends up revealing to Dexter that he knows who Dexter is, and he's not this Kyle person. That was the name that Dexter gave him.
Yes, and this sends Dexter into quite a bit of a panic, as it would. And he starts to worry about his family's safety, which is something in all of his many years of doing this that he has never had to worry about before. So he tells his wife to take their son and get the hell out of town. And then he immediately gets down to the business of tracking down Arthur and killing him. So he drugs Arthur, takes him to the place where he's going to kill him. Arthur wakes up and gives this absolute bone-chilling speech, especially when you look back on that speech after you've finished the season. It's just extra terrifying. So Dexter kills him, gets rid of the evidence in the body. He goes home. He sees he has a voicemail from Rita. He goes to call her back, and the phone starts to ring inside of the house. So, knowing that something is terribly wrong, he starts searching the house, and he quickly finds them. He finds Rita dead in a bathtub full of her own blood, and he finds their infant son, Harrison, sitting on the floor of the bathroom in a pool of that blood. And that really throws us back to when we used to get flashback scenes to how Dexter was found by his adopted father. Dexter was found in a similar position, which Arthur knew, with a dead mother and Dexter sitting in a pile of his mother's blood, which was when his adopted father, who was a police officer, took him from that scene and took him in. What we realize is that Arthur knew all of this, and he got to Rita and Harrison before Dexter got to him.
That was a heavy episode. Season 5, we end up, we find just kind of a broken down Dexter. He's trying to be a single dad. He's trying to do the best that he can, and I really kind of loved this season. Early on in it, the big thing is Dexter is tracking a rapist who we end up finding out it's actually a group of serial rapists. He finds one of the victims, the latest victim, who's being held hostage. Her name is Lumen, played perfectly by Julia Stiles. He convinces her that he's there to help. He's not there to hurt her. He's there to help her. He takes her, he cares for her. In part of trying to help her heal, he vows to her that he will kill each of these rapists. Initially, he refused, saying that it won't help if she goes out on her own and tries to do this. He has to be the one to do this. And this really comes to a head when she almost kills an innocent man. She almost kills the wrong person. Dexter ends up trying to teach her some of the codes, some of the important rules. Afterward, when Lumen finally leaves because she realizes that was all she needed. She just needed justice for these animals. After she ends up leaving, we end up seeing a birthday party for Harrison, Dexter's son. He's turning 1 year old. Dexter helps him blow out the candles on the cake, and Dexter starts to wonder if there is actually hope for him as a normal human being, but ultimately no, there isn't.
Really kind of sad. Then we move on, and season 6 is where things get a little rocky for me. This season had the Doomsday Killer, Professor Geller, and Travis. They're trying to bring about the end of the world by committing a bunch of murders based on things that they find in the Bible. Dexter finally tracks down Travis, who tells him that Dr. Geller all along had been telling him to do these crimes. But then we find out that Travis is more than one grape short of a bunch, and Dr. Geller has actually been dead this entire time.
So Dexter drugs him and gets him ready for the kill. And just as he's getting ready to plunge his trusty knife into his chest and complete the ritual, Dexter's sister, Deb, busts in because she's tracked down where he might be, and she sees it happen. She watches him do it, and then boom, that's the end of the season. Season 7 starts up with Deb trying to actually help Dexter because she doesn't know this is his life. She doesn't know he's done this hundreds of times before. So she gives him some very strict rules that he's supposed to follow, just to try to get through all of this. And I don't know, season 7 gets a bit slow. We're introduced to Hannah McCrae, who kind of becomes Dexter's love interest. She's a murderous widow, so at first she's one of Dex's potential victims, but in the end their relationship kind of makes sense. Their relationship gets incredibly intense on several levels, and that's the big thing from Season 7. That was the big takeaway for me from Season 7.
And that brings us up to the absolute mess of a final season. Now, I liked elements of it. We're introduced to Dr. Vogel, who is an expert psychiatrist who claims to have structured Dexter's code along with his adopted father, Harry. During this season, we also learned that maybe Harry wasn't such the saint that Dexter has him built up to be in his mind.
Hannah is still in the picture now, or comes back in the picture. I can't remember. Season 8's kind of a blur to me. I blocked a lot of it out. So Hannah's still in the picture, or back in the picture, or somehow in the picture. And there's a lot of just run around with a lot of people that I didn't really care about. It's really boring, and it doesn't matter. Dexter's sister, Deb, she ends up getting shot somehow trying to track down, I don't even remember what this guy's name was. I think it was the brain surgeon, or the brain something or other, because he removes pieces of the victim's brain. So Deb gets shot by him, and she's taken to the hospital, and during the worst hurricane in ever, Dexter, he's killed the brain surgeon now, and he walks in and he's trying to tell Deb that it's going to be okay, and she goes into cardiac arrest or something. I don't know. She dies, and then Dex watches her die, and now he's feeling all the guilt around this because he watched her die, and he's just like, oh no, she's my last victim, she's my latest victim. So, you know, because realistically, if it wasn't for him, she would be fine. She wouldn't have been in this situation. Nothing would have happened to her. So he ends up putting her body on a gurney in a hospital. She's just died. She's hooked up to all the machines that are still being tracked in the nurses' station, so they would know she's dead, and nobody comes to check on her. Nobody comes to check at all. So Dex loads her onto a gurney, pushes her out the front doors of the hospital where nobody's acknowledging the fact that there's a lifeless corpse being pushed out of the hospital. He rolls it out the hospital, rolls it down the sidewalk, and then rolls her towards the ocean, picks her up, puts her on the Slice of Life, his boat, and then drives out into the middle of the ocean and dumps her body ceremoniously as his last victim.
Yep, so weird no one saw or protested him taking the body out of the hospital. So, and not only that, not only did nobody protest him taking this body out of the hospital, Deb has a fiance. Like, Quinn's gonna go back to the hospital, she's gonna be gone, and for the rest of his life, she's just disappeared. Like, that bothers me so much to this day. So then, as a final show of sacrifice and feeling as though he only has one choice, he drives his boat out into the worst storm in recent years, and for a moment we think that he's dead because the boat goes into the storm and the screen goes black. But then no, a few seconds pass, and all of a sudden Dexter is now a lumberjack up north. And it seemed like such a cheap cop-out, in my opinion. I would have much rather thought of Dexter Morgan going out in a mess of destroyed boat in that storm. It just seemed so much more fitting. Meanwhile, while all of this has been going on, his love interest from earlier, Hannah, has taken his son at his request, and they have gone to another country to start a new life. Now, another thing that bothered me about that was Hannah's this really pretty blonde woman, and when she's getting ready to take Harrison away, she doesn't so much as dye her hair or cut her hair or try to disguise her appearance in any way, even though the police are looking for her. That seemed also like a cop-out. Like she could have done something to try to disguise her appearance. But despite all that, the show had some really, really stellar moments and a lot of interesting things to say and ideas about family and relationships and the lengths that someone will go to protect who and what they love. And that's one of the reasons that no matter what, no matter how off the rails it got, I will always look back fondly on Dexter.
So, my final takeaways from this. This show had tremendous promise. It started out so incredibly strong. The theme song for it that I was playing at the beginning, it's beautiful, it's iconic, it's wonderful, it's quirky. Oh, one of the things we didn't even touch it on, very iconic thing from the show, the slides, the blood slides. One of the things that Dexter has done from all of his victims, he would, before the kill, he would just use a little dropper, prick a little drop of blood, put it on a slide, and then keep it. And those were his souvenirs. That's what he would keep from every one of his victims, from everything. And he puts these slides in this little box thing, and then he would just like affectionately stroke it. And that was kind of his. That was just part of his calming mechanism. And yeah, there's an incredibly huge. Those slides were such an iconic thing that when they released the box sets, it came and there was something that actually had like the slides in it. I think they were like coasters or something.
Yeah, lately I've also been hearing a lot of buzz about a possible another season. Who knows if that'll ever happen. I think I heard Michael C. Hall say they were gonna maybe wait another few years to see what happened. I don't know how good of an idea that is, but who am I kidding? I'd watch it if they made it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this review of one of our favorite shows. Next week, we're going to be doing 6 Feet Under, which is my all-time favorite show, which also starred Michael C. Hall. So, yeah, I will see you guys on Monday. I'm going to have an eyeshadow palette collection and declutter video. Bye, guys.